Um, as you know, my mother is always getting two dreams, and I have had two dreams as well. Can you
Really?
tell us the
That's very good.
importance?
Yes,
Can
please.
you tell us the importance of dreams?
You see, importance of dreams lies in many different areas. It is not always, the importance is not always related to its religious significance. It's also related to the psychic significance. Because, as we understand dreams, they can be born merely out of your psychic experiences during the day or during the past for so many years. And what happens, and without any direct relation to an outside message you receive, I'm talking of that particular type of dreams, where it is only your inner self which is giving expression to some suppressed views, desires, or bitter experiences, etc., etc. Now, you first understand this, then we'll turn to the divine part of the dreams. What happens is, daily you see things, you do things, you react to them. To certain things, you want to react in a different manner, but you cannot. And these are the more significant parts of your experiences which play a very important role in the formation of dreams, not necessarily immediately, but even after, long, long after. What happens, you have a desire to achieve something, you can't. Now, there are some who give expression to their desire and show their dissatisfaction at what they could not get, but there are those mostly whom the circumstances would not allow or their common decency would not allow to give expression to their dissatisfaction. So these go, these things, these expressions, or you know, thing, this ultimate, in the ultimate analysis, this is a, an irritating consciousness of wanting something which you could not get. In the final analysis, this is what it is. So it keeps sinking into your subconscious mind. And achievements, prayer, exaltations, shames, you behaved in a manner you shouldn't have done, and you had repentance. And similarly, so many other human experiences which cannot be counted, I mean, so many. They also keep imprinted on your mind's frontal part, that is the conscious mind, and also the deeper inner part, which is the subconscious. Now, what happens there in the subconscious? This is the issue to which I'm coming. In the subconscious mind, these things are ruminated, they are compared, they are shifted, they are sifted, they are, given different combinations. And the mind never sleeps. It goes on working on them and giving them a shape and giving them a form which sometimes becomes a message. And sometimes when the subconscious mind can't get anything out of it, the personality of the person who is seeing or who is in the formative stage of dreams is so confused. It's not very clear. So also the dreams would be confused. And the struggle would not be governed by any principles, but would be governed by accidents. So these people also see dreams when something is matured by the subconscious mind, it throws it up. And that message is not necessarily remembered by you. Now comes the more complicated and difficult part of the dreams. What happens is that every man who goes to sleep sees dreams, without fail, without exception. And that means that is the time when you sleep, when your spirit, as we call it, or consciousness as they refer in the non believing world, that sinks to a lower level of mind where it comes into contact with what is happening inside the subconscious. So it begins to peep into the subconscious. and begins to receive certain messages. And when it sinks to a certain level, then it's pushed back. And this is done with scientific precision. There is no haphazard chance to play a role in that. It happens in a way that exactly to the minute, to the second, even some scientists say to the split second, exactly at the same time, duration of time, you you begin to return from deep sleep to the surface. And when you reach the surface, that is the moment when you should remember your dream. And if you don't remember it clearly at that moment and go to back to the same process of reaching down and down, then you forget that dream altogether. And that is the time which is referred to by the scientists as REM, a rapid eye movement period in one's sleep. At that time, every child, every grown up, every person, in fact, has his eyes moving, flickering, right and left, very rapidly, and you can see the movement from underneath the lids, and that is how the scientists know that man is now in a state where he should remember what he saw. And when they wake him up, then he always tells a dream. But if he is permitted to sleep again, then it is quite likely that he forgets all his dreams altogether. So that is one thing I wanted to tell you, that it is not a unique thing in you and in your mother that you see dreams. What is unique about you, or not unique but exceptional, is that you remember them far more than others. And now these dreams interpretation should also be divided into two main categories. Those dreams which are born out of one's psychic interplay with the human experience in the subconscious mind, those dreams should give you, anybody, the message that this is the type of boy or the type of girl or type of woman that he and she are. When you listen to the dreams, you understand immediately what sort of people they are, what have they been thinking, what they have been doing, what have been their inner problems, and complexes they've been suffering through. So that is the message of ordinary dreams, common human dreams, which you get and you understand. Sometimes people are very excited. They write to me, "Look here, we saw this dream, and there seems to be, a very grave threat to this and that." And all their dreams are most often related to threats, because they keep writing to me. Sometimes they telephone me. There's a very urgent message for you. This is what we have seen in the dream. And I knew what was coming. And then they relate a very horrid dream they have seen about somebody, relative, or even me, and this and that. So I put them to rest. I said, "Nobody, no problem. I know the dreams. It's okay. I don't have to argue with them why, but I know these are the psychic experiences. They have some disturbances in their psyche due to some accidents, some other experience of horror in the childhood or something, which keeps them giving a different turn to their experiences, which is always, inclined towards seeing the dark side of the picture rather than the bright side. So they also see dreams and remember, and many don't remember, but you can observe them. If you observe them, you can observe their disturbed physical behavior during those dreams, or calm and peace during those dreams. I've seen people, sometimes becoming suddenly restless, they toss right and left, and obviously, they're not happy. And sometimes there's such calm on their faces, and the breathing also becomes slow and without any noise. And you can observe that peace descending upon them. And I'm sure this is because of some very good dreams they're seeing. And this is witnessed by them themselves sometimes when they remember those dreams. And then they write to me or relate to me that that was a beautiful dream, it felt so calm, so sort of, lifted from out of this world into a different part of the world which we considered heavenly. And that sense of elation and sublimity, that is left with that dream, by that dream. Now, let's turn to the second very important question. What about the divine dreams, divine messages? The divine messages are also recorded by the same mechanism which God has provided man regarding his, psychic expressions taking the form of dreams and this and that. I'm not speaking on that subject at length, but because we have not enough time. For that, it is enough you should understand that there is a very strong reason why it happens. But the same mechanism, the same apparatus is sometimes connected by God through his agencies like angels or whatever means he requires to connect him with the human beings. And then the dreams take a very different form. They are potent with messages. They have their signs within them that they are not born out of human psyche. They have positive signs not only for themselves but also for the others to witness later on. Because the dreams speak of certain experiences which, number one, any sensible man can see could not have been born out of the psyche of that person. Secondly, it relates to certain things which he himself does not understand. Because the language is different, he doesn't know why on earth should he have seen such a dream. And then again, the events which follow give support not to the verbal form of the dream, but to the inner message lying deeper in that message, in that formal message. The most befitting example of that is the dream of the Pharaoh. Not Pharaoh, I'm sorry, it was the king of Egypt who was not a Pharaoh, who was belonged to a different dynasty during the time of Hazrat Joseph, as you know him in English. Do you know of that dream? What dream he saw? You know? Tom? Tahir? Do you remember the dream of Hazrat Joseph, not Hazrat Joseph, but dream of the king of Egypt when Hazrat Joseph was in prison? No? You? You don't know? That's a very important thing. You should have known by now. Now, you better see to it that the important features of the Quran, which should be the common knowledge with Ahmadis, is also, imparted to them in your lessons, etc. And they are educated on these things, which are very important. They make the basis and the background of your personality as you grow up.
It was the 7 years of...
That's right. Yes. You see, he's new to Ahmadiyya. He has immediately learned these things. But children should be told these are stories, not stories as in the sense of tales, but as real happenings, historical events. This relates directly to what I'm discussing. So I'll take, in answer to your question, I'll illustrate on this dream. Now I'll leave the other details out. Once the king of Egypt saw a dream in which he saw two things happening. One, that there were 7 ears of some corn who were very healthy and green and powerful. I mean, healthy looking and robust looking. And there were other 7 ears of corn which were very lean, hardly carrying any seed. And strangely enough, these lean and weak and feeble-looking ears of corn ate and consumed all the healthy and stronger-looking ones. So he was surprised. What was it that's happening? Normally, you see the powerful, devours the weak, and this was exactly the opposite what he was saying. The weak ears were devouring, and entirely so, the robust, healthy ears of grain. Then he saw seven lean cows, and seven very strong, powerfully built, healthy cows. And the same thing happened again. The lean ones ate up the strong and powerful ones. So he was deeply disturbed and also impressed by this dream. He said that that must carry some message I can't understand. So he put it before the scholars in his court and said, "Come on, let's see who resolves this for me, who understands the message, who can interpret this dream." None of them did. Instead of accepting their defeat as being unable to understand the message, they just pooh-poohed it respectfully, of course, by saying, "O king, you have been disturbed. Maybe stomach or something, They didn't say that in so many words, but generally the kings were sometimes overeat. So they say, you have a disturbed stomach or something. Don't worry. It doesn't mean, but he was not satisfied. He knew there was something very important. Now, it so happened at the same time. Now, this is how you can know that this was a divine message. Most certainly, it was not born out of accidents or disturbed psyche. At the same time, it was happening somewhere else in a prison in Egypt, where the Prophet of Allah, who is known as Joseph, he was imprisoned for no crime of his, but innocently. He had two partners in prison who saw two different dreams. And they knew him to be a very pious man, the way he behaved, that is how you impress upon others. That is in the same sense as I explained to you the meaning of khatamiyat. So they went to him and requested him to interpret their dreams. He said, all right, come on, let's wait for the food to be served. And in the meantime, I tell you of certain things. So he started preaching them about oneness of God and everything. Now, he thought it was an ideal moment because they must have been impressed by his behavior, and they must have thought that he is a superior man, he would interpret dreams. He told them why he was superior, what was good in him. It was only because of his dedication to the cause of unity of Allah, and that has been traditionally the religion of his forefathers, etc. Talking of this, then the food was served, or before it was served, he asked them to relate their dreams. One of them said, I saw in a dream that I'm carrying a basket full of pieces of bread on my head. And birds come and eat that up and finish that. The other said, I saw in a dream that I'm serving in goblets wine to my master or something. So to the one who saw the first dream, he said, unfortunately for you, you're going to be hanged. You're going to be condemned to death because man who has got a basket full over his head and he can't defend and birds come and eat, that depicts a dead man, who becomes a food for the birds, etc. So you are going to die. And that is exactly what happened. And to him he said, luckily for you, you will be released of this prison and you will go back to your master, who happened to be the same king I've been talking about, and serve him many good years. It's a good omen for you, this dream is. And that is exactly what happened. Now, when Joseph mentioned this to him, he also told him that when you return to your master, tell him about me. Tell him what sort of person I am and why I'm being imprisoned. But he forgot that. He was so relieved by by the good news about himself. He forgot everything until this incident happened, which I have just mentioned to you. He heard that king had seen this dream, and he heard the answer. So he respectfully approached the king later on and said, "Look here, if you really want a true interpretation of a dream, I happen to know a man who who knows how to do it, and he's in prison. If you permit me, I'll go to him and speak to him on this." As he related the dream to Joseph, immediately, God told him the meaning. He said, "What's going to happen is that you will have 7 good years of crop. Where you'll have bumper crops and everything will be beautiful and wonderful. You have extra grain. Don't waste it, because that period of bumper crops is going to be followed by 7 very lean years, in which you will see drought, in which you will see famine. And if you save what you have during the first 7 years, for those years which have to follow, then those years will eat up the extra grain of these years." This is a message from Allah. This is a method which has been taught to you, that if you want to save yourself from famine, save the grain from the harvest of these healthy years of crop for the lean years which are to follow. When this was told to the king, he was impressed very much. He said, "This is it. Now I understand. The cows eating the thicker cows, etc." So he sent for him. He said, "I want to release you. You are a very pious man." He said, "No, nothing doing. Unless I'm absolved of the alleged crime I had committed, I will not come out." So the investigation was reopened, and he was found to be absolutely innocent. And the criminals, whoever they were, they confessed their crimes and false allegations. So he came out, and he was entrusted with the task of sort of finance and agriculture minister. He would control all the affairs of the finances. So this is the reference to the dream which I said I'm going to give you as an example of how divine dreams work and how they can be recognized. Now, for a king to see such a thing has no reason. I mean, there is no psychic reason whatsoever of relating this dream to the disturbed psyche of a king, because it is a set pattern, and which is fully supported by the second part of the dream in application to the cows. So this was not an haphazard dream of a disturbed man. It was a message from Allah. And when it was interpreted, then immediately you begin to see light. But what followed, that was the biggest proof. It happened exactly like that in Egypt in the following years. So no human psyche could realize what was to come and the way it was to come. It was very unusual for the 7 full years to be like this and 7 full years to be like that. That is addressing you, my little child. That is how you understand the divine dreams. They have messages, but those messages are discernible to the trained eyes, not to everyone. And once they're understood, then even the seer of the dream knows now. He is quite satisfied that this is a message and it is not just an accident. Then what follows is witnessed by all others as well, whether they believe or do not. And they became witness to the fact that this was a dream different from ordinary. So the same mechanism or machination which is responsible for human psychic dreams is taken over by God. Because if there was no such machination within man, how could he, relate to us? How could he come into communion with us? So that is the system which is utilized. Do you understand? You're satisfied? Good. I'm
Thank you.
happy. Yes?